Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and in this video we're going to be talking about White Mage and the changes the job is going to be getting in Final Fantasy XIV's next expansion, Stormblood. Now keep in mind that the only information we have is anything that came out of the recent live letter number 36, as well as the ability and gauge interactions you see on the screen right now. All of this information, whether it be numerical or visual, is still subject to change, so take everything you see and hear here with a grain of salt until we get confirmation of the full job skills on June 16th for early access. Now, I decided to do my White Mage video right after my Scholar video for one major reason. White Mage is just one of the jobs we can almost get nothing out of this actual footage, and we have barely even 2 sentences about it from the recent live letter number 36. For that reason, I'm kind of concerned about White Mage, but let's go over what we did learn about it. So first up, let's talk about what's on the screen right in front of us, the gauge on the far right of the screen. Now, according to Naoki Yoshida, this gauge keeps track of White Mage's Lillies, which are those little glowing, I guess, flowers that are growing off the vines there. Now, from what we can see in this footage, the Lillies are actually gained when healing a target. For example, you actually see him straight up generate 1 when casting, I don't know if that was Cure 1 or Cure 2, but seems to gain them when casting a Cure on a target of some kind. Now, we also know that those Lillies can be expended, and we actually do see all 3 of them expended here, to place barriers on allies. That is as specific as we got in terms of information from the live letter number 36. So you generate these Lillies, and when you expend them, you create barriers on allies. Questions that raises: 1. What kind of barriers? Like, how efficient are we talking about here? 2. Do they stack with Eloquium and Nocturnal Stance, or do they not stack with Eloquium and Nocturnal Stance? I would hope that they don't, because this is White Mage's, like, key thing. If their key thing absolutely can't even compete or can't stack with the Scholar Astro ones, they're getting those shields from their straight-up heals. This is White Mage's job-specific ability. So if that doesn't work, I'm going to be super upset. Now, Naoki Yoshida also gave us another vague comment about these Lillies, that apparently when you have Lillies, you have a chance to reduce the cooldown of certain skills when you're casting your abilities. So that's very not specific. When I think of White Mage, there are some pretty major abilities I think of that have cooldowns. I think of Assize, Asylum, Benediction. Divine Seal is still up in the air because we don't know if it's a cross roll yet. And then you have, what, Shroud of Saints, which we all seem to believe that Lucid Dreaming, one of the other healer cross rolls, is going to be doing. So what other cooldowns do they really have? It seems that Stone Skin was removed from White Mage, according to the hotbars from when Yoshi P switched to it. And then we see a couple of other buffs that we don't know what they do in the video itself. So I guess that there's like maybe 5 or 6 different buffs that could affect, but that was as vague of a comment as we got. It has the chance to reduce the cooldown of certain other abilities when you have Lillies. So there's just so many mysteries here that just aren't shown or explained very well, both in the live letter number 36 and in this footage. Other than that, we can see Arrow 3, Arrow 2, and Stone 4. We can assume that Arrow 1 and Arrow 2 were combined into just Arrow 2, that those got the special treatment like Stone did. Arrow 3 being AoE and a completely different effect seems to be cast on its own, so you now have 2 dots plus your Stone 4. We see a few other abilities here. I'd like to point out, by the way, that the very last ability used, where the White Mage draws the Black Mage towards them, that is not a White Mage specific skill. That is actually a healer cross-roll skill. So Scholars and Astros can do that as well. And other than that, that's all we can get out of the White Mage footage. We see a few buffs and things that we don't know what they do in the video, and then we have those few comments about Lillies from Naoki Yoshida. Honestly, I think they should have done a much better job. White Mage, along with Monk, is one of those jobs that people were like really paying attention to see if they would improve in Stormblood. And the only other comment we got is that they want to reinforce White Mage's identity as a pure healer. Now, that doesn't mean you can't DPS. Obviously, we went over the healer changes in the other video. For those who don't know, healer's damage now scales off mind, and Cleric Stance is a cross-roll buff to damage. It doesn't lower your healing at all. It's just a short buff to your damage dealt. So, in theory, White Mages should be able to put out damage without stance dancing anymore, because there is no stance to dance in and out of, but we don't know the exact numbers regarding that. But if you're going to reinforce them as a pure healer, one of the main reasons why White Mages don't really stand out in like hardcore metas right now is because Astro gives the balance. I mean, I really don't need to put it in any other way. Their healing is still insanely good, and their overall utilities are just great for the raid. And then Scholar has really strong shields, again, has great utility for the raid. So how does White Mage really fit into it as a pure healer? Will there be scenarios, or enough scenarios, I should say, where bringing a White Mage and its healing capabilities are so beneficial that a White Mage is just that extra healing is that necessary? I mean, maybe there's going to be scenarios where people choose to bring the pure healing output of the White Mage and then bring an extra DPS, but that's something that I more anticipate for things like primals, more so than like the Savage tier rating, you know what I mean? But again, I'm just speaking a lot of speculation at this point. We don't actually know how all of these things are going to work together. We don't know what some of these abilities that we see here that are unnamed and undescribed actually do. So let's not panic too much yet about White Mage and the abilities that they're getting. And let's wait to get some more definitive information about it. But anyway, that's going to be a wrap for my White Mage video. I'm going to be doing Astro next, so stay tuned for that one. Be sure to like, favorite, subscribe, and share. And stay tuned for all the rest of them, not just Astro, because there's going to be a ton of them coming out in the next week or so. Anyway, thanks for watching, and until next time, take care.